Well, I think Mr. Wilders wants everyone to believe that it was over differences in immigration policies. But actually, what I think is what happened is that Geert Wilders found the kitchen too hot, so he found a way to get out of that kitchen. Because the Netherlands was now facing the prospect of having to massively ramp up defense spending. With the upcoming NATO summit, the Netherlands will have to commit to 3.5% in defense spending. That means 16 to 17 billion euros extra in defense spending. And that money has to come from somewhere. So that means either raising taxes or cutting spending. It was pretty obvious that Mr. Wilders wanted to do neither. So he wanted to have none of it. And that's why he probably got out of the coalition before those tough decisions would have to be made.
I'm wondering how the Dutch voter is taking these developments, and who do you think they are most likely to blame for the collapse of the government?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, that's what we will see in the fall when a snap election was bound to happen, either in October or November. But everyone is also looking at the Liberal Party, which is currently the second largest party in the coalition. The Liberal Party is the party that was led by Mr. Mark Rutte, the former Prime Minister, currently NATO Secretary General. And for 12 years, Mark Rutte has said that he would not cooperate with Mr. Wilders in any coalition because he said Wilders cannot be trusted. And Wilders wants to end freedom of religion in the Netherlands, and that was also unacceptable for him. So that's why Mr. Wilders was out of government for all that time. Now, after Mr. Rutte stepped down as leader of the Liberal Party, his successor immediately reversed course and said, I do want to cooperate with Mr. Wilders. And she even went so far as to say that fixing the Netherlands' migration issues is only possible in a coalition with Mr. Wilders. So it's clear that in the debate that we will have in Parliament today, Dylan Jezus, the leader of the Liberal Party, will have some explaining to do. Why did she choose to work with Mr. Wilders, even though his reputation was that he was very erratic, unpredictable, and also couldn't be trusted because he already brought down a government in 2012, and now he did it again.
Yeah, but I'm also trying to understand here whether there's an argument to be made by the fact that this is the first government post-Mark Rutte. Can the Netherlands actually have a sustained, a solid government without the leadership of Mark Rutte, who was in power for more than a decade, really?
Well, it would be a sad state of affairs, I think, if this country cannot have a stable government without just one man. I think we saw in the past that after a period of having a stable government in place for 10 years, the Netherlands often had a government that lasted only for 1 or 2 years. And then we got back to a more stable situation. And I think that's also what needs to happen here. That parties in the political center, from the center left to the center right, would have to come together and take some tough decisions that will have to be made in the Netherlands in order to get the country going again. Because over the past 11 months, we've seen a government with mostly consumed with infighting, which has caused economic problems, which led to massive cuts in education, which the business community is very concerned about. So the new government will have a lot of work on its plate.
No doubt about that. And speaking of which, I would like to take a moment to look at the opinion polls. I was doing so yesterday, and it is very clear that the Geert Wilders party has lost some momentum within the public opinion of the Netherlands. But it's also very clear that it is still a very fragmented political picture. What is the likelihood, in your opinion, that the next government will manage to form a coalition without the PVV?
Well, I think a coalition with the PVV is highly unlikely. That's because every single party, except for the Liberal Party and some very small parties, have said that they will not work together with Mr. Wilders. So even if you look at the polls and even if he manages to win the next election, it's very hard to fathom the perspective of a government, including Mr. Wilders, also because center-left parties and parties in the political center, like my party, have said we will simply not work with him. So a new coalition would have to be made up of parties in the political center, from the center-left to the center-right.
And what do you think this episode means for the Dutch position in the European Union? You know, it took the Netherlands so long to form a government. Now, it didn't last more than a year, really. We are now having to wait for an election in the fall. We don't know for how long conversations will then last. So does that weaken the role that the Netherlands has showed in recent times in the European Union?
Well, I think the European Union is looking at the Netherlands with a little bit of concern because the previous government was very good on supporting Ukraine. After Germany, I think the Netherlands in absolute terms was the country that supported Ukraine with more than other countries did with weapons and financial support. But that has slowed down a little bit over the past 11 months, also caused by differences within the current or the previous government, the government that was brought down yesterday. So I think the European Union is looking at what is going to happen now in the Netherlands. Personally, I think it's actually good news that the government has been brought down yesterday, because this opens up new opportunities to get some, well, very important topics being discussed with other parties, decisions being made that could really end situations like the nitrogen crisis in the Netherlands, which makes building houses more difficult, and perhaps also fix the cuts in the education budget, which the business community is concerned about. And that's what's really needed to make sure that the country gets to a position in the European Union which is stronger than we have today.
And just finally, given that you are a lawmaker, I would also like to understand how are you looking at the development of politics across the European continent? Because we have seen a growing support, and that is still the case in the Netherlands, for far-right movements. At the same time, we just have more fragmented parliaments across the bloc. So what we witnessed in the Netherlands, is that just a consequence of modern-day politics?
I think what we see is that in many cases, far-right parties are very good at campaigning and are terrible at governing. That's what we see in Hungary, where Viktor Orban has made Hungary one of the poorest countries in the European Union. We see this also in the Netherlands, with Mr. Wilders being pretty good at campaigning. But governing was something that he wasn't really interested in, and he found this a nuisance. And we also saw that he spent quite a lot of time abroad for a national party leader. Just last weekend, he attended the CPAC conference in Hungary. Well, if you're in the midst of a coalition crisis and you really want to work with your coalition partners to fix things and to get things done, that's not what you do. Then you stay home and you work on those things. So I think also for Dutch voters, he really gave the impression that maybe Geert Wilders is too big for the Netherlands now and is more interested in being active in the international far-right conservative movement.